The exploration vessel Horizon drifted silently through the outer reaches of human space. Commander Lisa Bennett stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the view screen that showed the endless black dotted with stars. After 3 months of routine patrol, the crew was eager for something interesting to happen. "Commander, we're picking up an unusual signal," John Russell said, looking up from his console. As Lisa's second-in-command, John was always calm and collected, his analytical mind perfect for space exploration. Lisa walked over to his station. "What kind of signal?" "It doesn't match anything in our database. Definitely not human in origin." The bridge fell silent. After nearly a century of space exploration, humanity had yet to encounter intelligent alien life. There had been microbes and simple organisms on distant planets, but no civilizations. "Location?" Lisa asked. "Just beyond Pluto Station in neutral space," John replied. Lisa took a deep breath. "Set course to investigate. Alert the crew. This could be first contact." The Horizon changed direction, its engines humming with power as it moved toward the signal's source. Lisa sent a message to Earth Defense Force headquarters reporting their discovery and intentions. Admiral Frank Morales responded immediately with orders to proceed with caution. 6 hours later they saw it. A ship unlike any human vessel. It was dark purple with ridged edges that reminded Lisa of a crocodile's back. It was twice the size of the Horizon. "Open a standard greeting channel," Lisa ordered. The communications officer sent the carefully prepared first contact message. A simple mathematical sequence followed by basic language information designed to establish communication. For nearly an hour, there was no response. Then suddenly, the alien ship transmitted back. The ship's AI quickly processed the incoming data. "Commander, they're sending visual communication. They want to see us," the communications officer reported. Lisa straightened her uniform. "Put it on screen." The view screen changed to show the interior of the alien vessel. Standing in what appeared to be their command center was a tall, reptilian being with scaled skin in shades of green and brown. Its eyes were vertical slits, and a ridge of spines ran from its head down its back. When it spoke, its voice was translated by the ship's computer into a deep, rumbling English. "I am Warlord Kreth of the Vrax Dominion. You have entered space claimed by the Vrax. Identify yourselves." Lisa kept her expression neutral despite her surprise. "I am Commander Lisa Bennett of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We were unaware. This region was claimed territory. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations." The alien's mouth twisted in what seemed like amusement. "Peace? The Vrax do not seek peace. We conquer. But you are an unknown species to us. We will learn about you before deciding your fate." The reptilian eyes narrowed. "Prepare to receive a shuttle. I will board your vessel for negotiations." Before Lisa could respond, the transmission ended. John looked at her with concern. "Commander, should we allow them aboard?" Lisa considered their options. Refusing could be seen as hostile, but allowing armed aliens onto the Horizon carried its own risks. "We'll meet them, but have security teams on standby. Let's be diplomatic but cautious." 2 hours later, Warlord Kreth and 4 Vrax guards stepped onto the Horizon. In person, they were even more imposing, standing nearly 7 feet tall with muscular bodies covered in natural armor-like scales. They carried weapons that looked like advanced energy pistols. Lisa greeted them in the ship's conference room, with John and 2 security officers present. "Welcome aboard the Horizon," Lisa said. "We're honored to be the first humans to meet your species." Kreth looked around the room, his gaze dismissive. "Your ship is small and unimpressive. How many worlds does your species control?" "We have Earth, our homeworld, and colonies on Mars and Europa within our solar system. We're still exploring beyond that," Lisa explained. Kreth made a sound that might have been laughter. "A primitive species, then. The Vrax control 17 solar systems and have subjugated all intelligent life within them." Lisa kept her diplomatic smile fixed in place. "We prefer peaceful exploration and cooperation with other life forms." "Weak approach," Kreth said. "The strong survive by dominating the weak. This is the natural order." The meeting continued for another hour, with Kreth asking questions about human defenses, population centers, and military capabilities. Lisa answered carefully, providing general information without revealing strategic details. When the formal meeting ended, Lisa offered to show Kreth around the ship. As they walked through the corridors, she noticed how the Vraks studied everything, with calculating eyes. "Your species is soft," Kreth commented as they observed crew members in the recreation area. "No natural armor, no claws. How have you survived?" "We adapt," Lisa said simply. "What we lack in physical strength, we make up for in other ways." They reached the botanical garden where the ship grew some of its food. Kreth seemed puzzled by the concept of growing plants for sustenance rather than hunting. "Your visit has been enlightening, Commander," Kreth said finally. "I believe I understand humans now." Without warning, he grabbed Lisa's arm with his scaled hand. "You will come with me to our ship. We need to study a human specimen more closely." The nearby security officer moved forward, but Kreth's guards raised their weapons. The situation was moments from erupting into violence. Lisa didn't hesitate. Years of combat training took over. She twisted out of Kreth's grip using his own momentum against him, then delivered a swift strike to a spot just below his jaw, a vulnerable point on many Earth reptiles that she gambled might work on the Vraks. It did. Kreth staggered backward, obviously shocked that the smaller human had broken his hold. The guards hesitated, clearly not expecting resistance. In that moment of confusion, Lisa's security team moved in, weapons drawn. "This meeting is over," Lisa said firmly. "Return to your ship immediately." Kreth rubbed his jaw, his vertical pupils narrowing to thin lines. "You dare to touch a Vraks warlord?" His voice was quiet with disbelief. "I defend myself and my crew. We offered peace and meant it. But don't mistake peaceful intentions for weakness." For several tense seconds, no one moved. Then Kreth made a sound, something between a hiss and a laugh. "Interesting. Perhaps humans are not as soft as you appear." He gestured to his guards to lower their weapons. "We will depart, but we will meet again, Commander Bennett." After the Vraks returned to their ship, Lisa watched from the bridge as their vessel moved away and then vanished into what appeared to be some form of faster-than-light travel. "Send a priority message to Admiral Morales," she told John. "We need to prepare. I don't think we've seen the last of the Vraks." John nodded, his expression grim. "They seemed predatory." "Yes," Lisa agreed, thinking of Kreth's cold, calculating eyes. "And I suspect we've just become their next target." As the horizon set course for Earth, Lisa knew that humanity's peaceful exploration of space had just come to an end. A storm was coming, and they needed to be ready. 6 months passed since the encounter with the Vraks. Earth's leaders had taken Commander Lisa Bennett's warning seriously. Admiral Frank Morales organized emergency defense meetings. Scientists and military experts worked together to prepare for a possible invasion. Still, with only 3 populated worlds and limited space forces, humanity remained vulnerable. Dr. Alan Pierce never thought he would become a soldier. As the head scientist at the New Eden Colony's mining operation, his days were spent studying mineral samples and improving extraction methods. The colony, home to 50,000 people, was humanity's newest outpost. Alan was in his lab when the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed as the colony's AI made the announcement. "Unidentified ships entering orbit. All citizens report to shelter areas." Alan hurried to the window. In the sky above, he could see dark shapes moving through the clouds. His assistant, Meg Harris, joined him at the window. "Are those Vrak ships?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I think so," Alan replied. The emergency briefing from Earth showed similar designs. The colony's small defense force wouldn't stand a chance against a serious invasion. Alan knew this, but instead of panicking, his mind began working on solutions. "Meg, get to the shelter," he said. "I need to check something in the mining facility." While citizens rushed to underground bunkers, Alan ran in the opposite direction toward the mining complex. He had an idea. If the Vraks were as reptilian as Commander Bennett's report suggested, perhaps their biology had similar weaknesses to Earth reptiles. At the same time, on the colony's defense platform, Captain Steve Miller watched the Vrax ships descend. There were 12 of them, each many times larger than his 3 patrol ships. "Sir, they're hailing us," his communications officer said. The view screen showed a Vrax officer, his scaled skin darker than Warlord Kreth's. "I am General Zork of the Vrax Dominion. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender and your deaths will be quick." Steve straightened his back. "This is Captain Steve Miller. We have no quarrel with the Vrax. We request peaceful discussions." The Vrax made a dismissive gesture. "There is nothing to discuss. You have 1 hour to surrender before we begin destroying your settlements." The transmission ended. Steve turned to his crew. "Launch all fighters. Contact the other patrol ships. We're implementing Plan Mosquito." Plan Mosquito was a desperate strategy. Humanity couldn't match Vrax firepower, but perhaps they could use their smaller, faster ships to harass and confuse the enemy. Like the insect they were named after, the human fighters would sting, move, and sting again. In the mining facility, Alan accessed the main control room. The complex used sound cannons for breaking rock formations, devices that emitted focused, sonic waves at specific frequencies. Alan had noticed during his review of the Vrax data that their hearing range was likely different from humans based on their ear structure. Working quickly, he adjusted the mining equipment to create portable, sonic devices. If his calculations were correct, these would emit sounds extremely painful to Vrax hearing but barely noticeable to humans. Above the colony, Captain Miller's strategy was creating unexpected problems for the Vrax. Instead of forming a defensive line as expected, the human ships darted between the larger Vrax vessels, firing at vulnerable points and then speeding away. General Zork slammed his fist on his command chair. "How are these primitive ships avoiding our targeting systems?" His weapons officer looked confused. "They're changing course at random intervals, sir. The patterns make no sense. They're attacking in groups of 3, then splitting up, then rejoining from different directions," another officer reported. "Our computers can't predict their movements." 2 Vrax ships had already suffered significant damage, not enough to destroy them, but enough to show that this conquest wouldn't be as simple as expected. On the ground, the first Vrax landing parties were approaching the colony center. They moved with military precision, clearly expecting little resistance. They had conquered dozens of species before. This should be routine. Maria Diaz, the colonial governor, watched from the emergency command center as the aliens advanced. "Is everyone in the shelters?" she asked her staff. "Almost everyone," her assistant confirmed, "except we can't locate Dr. Pierce. He went to the mining facility." Maria frowned. "Send someone to find him. We can't have civilians wandering around during an invasion." But Alan was no longer at the mining facility. He and several mining engineers had loaded the modified sonic devices onto transport vehicles and were approaching the Vrax landing parties from behind. "Remember," Alan told his makeshift resistance fighters, "stay out of sight, activate the devices and retreat immediately. We don't know how they'll respond." When the first sonic weapon activated, the effect was immediate. The nearest Vrax soldiers clutched at their head areas, some dropping their weapons. The sound, barely audible to the humans, was clearly agonizing to the aliens. General Zork was receiving disturbing reports from multiple fronts. His ships in orbit couldn't pin down the irritating human vessels. Ground forces reported strange attacks that left soldiers disoriented without visible weapons being used. "These humans are not fighting conventionally," his second-in-command observed. "It doesn't matter," Zork snarled. "We outnumber them. We have superior technology. Increase the attack." But as hours passed, the situation didn't improve. 3 more Vrax ships suffered critical damage from the darting human fighters. On the ground, Alan's sonic weapons had been deployed around the colony, creating zones the Vrax couldn't enter without suffering intense pain. Captain Miller's ship took a direct hit and began losing power. "Abandon ship," he ordered his crew. "Implement scatter protocol." The crew escaped in small pods, each heading in different directions, another tactic to confuse Vrax targeting systems. Miller himself piloted his pod directly toward a Vrax vessel, making it appear as a suicide. Run. When the larger ship moved to avoid collision, it drifted into the range of the colony's defensive guns. After 18 hours of battle, General Zork made a decision that no Vrax commander had made in living memory. "Order all forces to withdraw," he told his bridge crew. "We will regroup and analyze these human tactics." His officers stared in disbelief. "Withdraw? From primitives? These primitives have destroyed 4 of our ships and incapacitated hundreds of ground troops," Zork snapped. "I will not lose my entire force due to pride. We need to understand their weaknesses better." As the Vrax ships pulled away from New Eden Colony, similar retreats were happening at the other 2 human worlds they had attacked. In each location, humans had used unexpected tactics and improvised weapons that the Vrax had never encountered in their long history of conquest. Back on their command ship, General Zork drafted his report to High Command. How could he explain that these soft, armorless creatures had successfully resisted a Vrax invasion force? For the first time in his military career, Zork felt something unfamiliar, a sense of uncertainty about victory. What he didn't yet realize was that this feeling had another name, one unfamiliar to the Vrax. It was the beginning of fear. Admiral Frank Morales stood before the Earth Defense Council, his face grim but determined. The large screen behind him showed images of the recent battles at the human colonies. "We've successfully repelled the first Vrax attacks, but they will return with greater numbers," he said. "Our defensive tactics won't work a second time. They'll adapt." The council members looked worried. One asked, "What do you suggest, Admiral?" "We need to take the fight to them," Morales replied. "Learn more about our enemy. We need intelligence about their biology, psychology, and weaknesses." Lisa Bennett, recently promoted to Commander of Special Operations, stepped forward. "I've assembled a team for just such a mission. The Vrax don't expect us to enter their territory. They've always been the invaders, never the invaded." The plan was dangerous. Lisa and her team would use a captured Vrax shuttle from the battle at New Eden. They would infiltrate Vrax space, gather intelligence, and return without being discovered. If caught, Earth would deny any knowledge of the mission. 3 weeks later, Lisa sat in the pilot seat of the Vrax shuttle. With her were 4 specialists chosen for their unique skills. Keith Jordan was a linguistic expert who had studied the Vrax language from the limited communications they had. Samantha Wright was a Special Forces soldier skilled in multiple combat techniques. Eric Wallace was a technology specialist who could hack into alien systems. Paul Baker was a xenobiologist focused on understanding Vrax biology. "Final systems check," Lisa ordered as they prepared to leave Earth's orbit. "Navigation working," Paul reported. "The shuttle's original course data is giving us the location of several Vrax outposts." "Weapons operational," Samantha confirmed. "Though I hope we won't need them." "Cloaking technology analyzed and functioning," Eric added. "As long as we don't get too close to their main detection systems, we should remain invisible." The shuttle left Earth quietly, without ceremony. Their mission was officially classified. Even if they succeeded, few would ever know what they had done. Using the Vrax ship's faster-than-light drive, they reached the edge of Vrax territory in just under a week. The first thing they noticed was the increased military presence. "They've doubled their border patrol since the attack on our colonies," Lisa observed. "They're taking us seriously now." Keith studied the communications they were intercepting. "There's something interesting in their transmissions. The linguistic patterns show signs of uncertainty. That's new compared to their earlier communications." The team navigated carefully through Vrax space, staying away from major travel routes. Their first target was a small outpost on the moon of a gas giant planet. The facility appeared to be a research station rather than a military base. "Perfect for our needs," Lisa said. "Eric, can you tap into their systems from here?" Eric connected their shuttle's computer to the outpost's network. "Their security is impressive but designed to keep out known enemies. They have no defense against human hacking methods." For 6 hours, Eric downloaded data while the others kept watch. The information they gathered was illuminating. The Vrax had detailed files on 17 conquered species, each subjugated, and now serving the Vrax Empire. Some were used as labor, others as soldiers, but all lived under strict control. Look at this, Paul said, pointing to biological data. The Vrax have a unique nervous system. They literally cannot feel fear as we understand it. Their brains don't process threats the same way ours do. Keith made another discovery while studying cultural files. They communicate partially through subtle skin color changes and pheromones we can't detect. That's why their spoken language seemed incomplete. Their information gathering was interrupted when Eric noticed unusual activity. Someone's checking the system. They know we're here. Lisa made a quick decision. We've got enough. Let's move to the second phase. The second phase was even riskier. They needed to observe Vrax in person. The shuttle landed in a remote forest area on a planet that served as a Vrax colony. Disguised in dark clothing designed to mask their heat signatures from Vrax thermal vision, the team approached a small settlement. From their hiding spot, they watched Vrax civilians and soldiers going about their daily activities. Samantha focused on their movements and fighting styles, recording everything with a small camera. Their fighting techniques rely on strength and natural armor, she whispered. But they're slower than humans and less flexible. I can use this. Keith noticed something else. Look at their interactions. There's no physical affection, not even among family units. But they have a strict hierarchy. Lower-ranked Vrax always defer to higher ranks, even in casual settings. A patrol passed nearby, forcing the team to remain motionless for nearly an hour. When it was safe, they retreated to their shuttle and took off, narrowly avoiding detection. 4. The next 8 days, they visited 2 more Vrax worlds, gathering more information each time. On the third planet, they discovered something crucial, a training facility where Vrax soldiers learned about conquered species. They're studying us, Lisa realized as they accessed the facility's records. This is a complete analysis of human biology and behavior based on their brief encounters with us. Paul examined the data. Their assessment is interesting. They recognize our physical weaknesses, but they're confused by our social structures and adaptability. What surprised them most was a recording of High Commander Skreeg, the supreme leader of the Vrax forces. He was addressing his officers about the human problem. These humans do not fit our understanding of intelligent species, Skreeg said in the recording. They have no natural weapons or defenses, yet they resist effectively. They should be studied further before the main invasion force is committed. This was valuable news. The Vrax were planning a larger invasion, but they were hesitating, something they had never done with any previous species. Their final discovery came when they infiltrated a Vrax biological research center. There, they found information about Vrax breeding grounds, sacred spaces where their young were raised in communal hatcheries. These locations were never attacked, even during the rare conflicts between Vrax factions. This is their most vulnerable point, Paul noted, culturally and biologically. As they prepared to return to Earth, their shuttle was spotted by a Vrax patrol ship. A brief but intense chase followed, with Lisa using her knowledge of human unpredictability to confuse the Vrax pilots. Just as they were about to be captured, Eric deployed a device that overloaded the Vrax ship's sensors, allowing them to escape into faster-than-light travel. When they finally returned to Earth space, their shuttle was damaged and low on power, but their mission was a success. The intelligence they gathered would change the course of the coming conflict. Admiral Morales personally greeted them upon their return. Was it worth the risk? He asked Lisa. Lisa handed him the data storage device containing everything they had learned. Yes, sir. We know how to fight them now. More importantly, we know how to make them feel something they've never experienced before. And what's that? Morales asked. Fear, Lisa answered simply. We know how to make the galaxy's apex predators feel fear. Ryan Phillips had never imagined his psychology degree would be used like this. He sat in a room deep within Earth Defense Headquarters, surrounded by experts in various fields. On the screens before them were images and data about the Vrax, collected by Commander Bennett's team. Our physical weapons will never match theirs, Admiral Morales told the assembled group. But we have something they've never faced before. Psychological warfare. Ryan nodded. As the leading specialist in alien psychology, he had spent weeks studying the intelligence from the mission. The Vraks have never experienced defeat. Their entire society is built on the certainty of their superiority. We need to shake that foundation. The plan they developed was unlike any military strategy in human history. Instead of direct confrontation, humans would wage a campaign of uncertainty and doubt. Operation Shadow began 3 weeks later. In a remote Vraks outpost, the guards were changing shifts when the lights flickered. Security cameras showed a brief image of a human figure in the corridor before going dark. By the time the backup systems came online, there was nothing to see. But in the command center, they found something disturbing. A human symbol painted on the wall. Similar incidents occurred across Vraks territory. Small human strike teams, using stealth technology developed based on Vrak sensors, appeared and disappeared without warning. They never attacked directly, never killed. Instead, they left evidence of their presence in secure areas thought to be impenetrable. Lieutenant Laura Chen led one such team. Her 4 soldiers moved silently through a Vrak's military base. There, special suits masking their heat signatures and scent. Their mission wasn't to destroy, but to be seen, briefly, mysteriously, and then vanish. Remember, Laura whispered to her team. We want them to know we were here, but not how we got, in or out. They placed small devices that would activate hours later, projecting human voices speaking in Vrak's language. The messages were simple but unsettling. We see you, we could have killed you, we chose not to. On the Vrak's command ship, High Commander Skrig received reports of these incidents with growing concern. How are they penetrating our defenses? He demanded of his officers. Unknown, High Commander, General Zork admitted. They appear and disappear without using any technology we can detect. Increase security at all breeding grounds, Skrig ordered. It was the first time in Vrak's history that such a precaution had been necessary. No enemy had ever reached their inner territories, let alone threatened their young. The psychological impact was exactly what Ryan had predicted. The Vraks operated on absolute certainty of their dominance. The idea that humans could move freely through their territory, choosing when and where to appear, challenged that certainty. General William Davis coordinated the overall campaign from Earth. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, he informed his officers. We've confused them. Now we need to divide them. Phase 2 targeted the Vrak's command structure. Using the intelligence about Vrak's communication methods, human operatives began broadcasting false orders and misinformation. Vrak ships would arrive at rendezvous points to find no one waiting. Supply deliveries went to the wrong planets. Patrol routes were changed without proper authorization. The confusion spread, and with it came the first cracks in Vrak's unity. Sub-Commander Grask, responsible for outer territory defenses, openly questioned his superiors in a meeting. Our forces are scattered. Our communications are compromised. Yet our leaders insist we are not vulnerable, Grask said. These humans move through our space as if our defenses don't exist. Such questioning would have been unthinkable months earlier. Vraks never questioned higher ranks. The mere fact that Grask spoke these words showed how deeply the psychological campaign was working. Meanwhile, Ryan proposed the most daring move yet. We need to target their breeding grounds, he told Admiral Morales. Not to harm them, but to show we could. That's extremely risky, Morales cautioned. If they perceive a real threat to their young, they might launch a full-scale attack on Earth. We'll be careful, Ryan assured him. We won't actually enter the breeding facilities. We'll just let them know we found them. A small team, led by Samantha Wright, deployed to a planet deep in Vrak's territory. Using the stealth techniques they had perfected, they approached one of the sacred breeding grounds. They placed small markers around the perimeter, just human, footprints preserved in hardening gel facing away from the facility. The message was clear. We were here. We could have entered. We chose to leave. When the Vraks discovered these markers, panic spread through their ranks for the first time in their history. High Commander Skrig called an emergency meeting of all military leaders. These humans must Be stopped, he declared. They have violated our most sacred spaces. But they didn't enter, one officer pointed out. They didn't harm any hatchlings, they just left footprints walking away. That's the most disturbing part, another commander said. Why would they not attack when they had the chance? What are they planning? This uncertainty was new to the Vraks. As apex predators, they understood direct aggression. They did not understand restraint that came from choice, rather than weakness. It confused and unsettled them in ways they couldn't articulate. On Earth, Ryan watched the reports of Vraks' reactions with satisfaction. It's working. They're beginning to question themselves, question their superiority. The campaign continued for months. Human teams appeared and disappeared throughout Vraks space. They left messages, symbols, and signs of their presence, but never engaged in direct combat. Sometimes they would help Vraks who were in danger, rescuing stranded pilots or warning outposts about natural disasters, only to vanish afterward. This behavior was incomprehensible to the Vraks. Enemies were to be conquered or destroyed, not assisted. The concept of an enemy who could attack but chose not to was foreign to their understanding. In the heart of Vraks territory, a greater change was occurring. The subjugated species, who had lived under Vraks' control for generations, began to notice the confusion among their masters. Whispers spread about the strange humans who moved like ghosts through Vraks' defenses. A Vraks patrol ship returned to base after reporting a brief encounter with a human vessel. The captain described how the human ship approached, scanned their damaged engine, and then transmitted repair instructions before disappearing. Why would they help us? The confused captain asked his superiors. No one had an answer. In his private chambers, High Commander Skreeg reviewed all reports of human activities. For the first time in his long life, he felt something unusual. A tightness in his chest, a constant alertness that wouldn't fade. He didn't have a name for this feeling, but humans would have recognized it instantly. It was fear. The galaxy's apex predators were finally learning what it meant to be afraid. The signs of change spread across the Vraks Empire. Murmurs of resistance emerged from planets long conquered. Species that had submitted to Vraks' rule for generations now watched their masters with new eyes. If humans could stand against the mighty Vraks, perhaps they could too. Ambassador Daniel Foster traveled in a human diplomatic vessel to meet with representatives of the Tilak, a blue-skinned species that had been under Vraks' control for over 200 years. His mission was delicate: to forge alliances without directly inciting rebellion. We don't offer weapons or soldiers, Daniel explained to the Tilak leader, a tall female named Galax. We offer knowledge, ways to resist that don't require matching Vraks' strength. Galax's large eyes studied the human carefully. For 2 centuries, we believed resistance was impossible. Now you humans appear, and suddenly the Vraks seem uncertain. Similar conversations happened across the galaxy as human diplomats quietly reached out to subjugated species. They shared tactics that had worked against the Vraks, methods of communication the reptilians couldn't detect, ways to move without triggering their sensing abilities, and most importantly, psychological approaches to undermine Vraks' confidence. Meanwhile, the Vraks Empire continued to fracture from within. Junior officers questioned orders. Patrol ships ignored calls to return to base. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Vraks faced internal dissent. High Commander Skreeg called for a decisive action to restore order. We will launch our main fleet against Earth. When we destroy the human homeworld, our authority will be restored. But even this command was met with hesitation. General Zork, once Skreeg's most loyal commander, voiced concerns. The humans have proven unpredictable. A direct assault may be what they expect. Are you refusing my order? Skreeg asked, his scales darkening with anger. I am suggesting caution, Zork replied, a response that would have been unthinkable months before. Eventually, Skreeg assembled his invasion force, 500 ships, the largest fleet ever gathered in Vraks' history. As they prepared to depart for Earth, an urgent message arrived from the outermost Vraks colonies. Rebellions had erupted on 3 worlds simultaneously. The conquered species were rising up, not with weapons, but with tactics clearly learned. From humans, Skreeg had to divide his forces, sending half to quell the uprisings. The reduced fleet began its journey toward Earth, still powerful enough to destroy the planet many times over. On Earth, Admiral Morales and his team watched the Vrax fleets approach. Their long-range sensors, enhanced with technology gleaned from the captured Vrax shuttle, tracked the enemy's movement. "They're coming," he informed the Defense Council, "but not with their full strength." Lisa Bennett, now promoted to Admiral, presented their final strategy. "We've shaken their confidence. Now we need to show them a different way forward, one that doesn't end in either side's destruction." The plan was audacious. Instead of preparing for a defensive battle, Earth sent out a request for a formal meeting between leaders. The message was transmitted directly to High Commander Skreeg's vessel as it entered the solar system. "They want to talk?" Skreeg laughed when he received the message. Now, when they face annihilation. Yet something about the calm human request gave him pause. Throughout this strange conflict, humans had consistently behaved in ways the Vrax couldn't predict. They had shown they could penetrate Vrax defenses at will, yet had never launched a full attack. Against the advice of his commanders, Skreeg agreed to a single meeting. The location would be a neutral space station at the edge of the solar system. Each side would bring only one ship. Admiral Lisa Bennett represented humanity. As she prepared to board her shuttle, Admiral Morales gave her final instructions. "Remember, this isn't about winning or losing in the traditional sense. It's about creating a new path forward." When the two ships arrived at the station, both sides were tense. Guards from both species watched each other carefully as Lisa and Skreeg entered the conference room, a simple space with a table and chairs designed to accommodate both human and Vrax physiology. "High Commander," Lisa greeted him with a respectful nod. "Admiral Bennett," Skreeg replied, "the human who first defied Vrax authority. I've been looking forward to meeting you again." "We've come a long way since that first encounter," Lisa said. "Indeed. You've caused considerable disruption in my empire." Skreeg's voice carried a mix of anger and something else, a reluctant respect. "That wasn't our primary goal," Lisa explained. "We only wanted to defend ourselves." "By invading our territory? By approaching our breeding grounds?" Skreeg's scales darkened. "By showing you that we could have done harm but chose not to," Lisa corrected. "There's a difference." The conversation that followed lasted for hours. Lisa explained humanity's history, how humans had evolved not as the strongest species on their planet, but as adaptable problem solvers who had to outsmart larger predators. "We were prey animals originally," she told the surprised Vrax leader. "We became apex predators through intelligence and cooperation, not through natural weapons or armor." Skreeg struggled to understand this concept. In Vrax evolution, the strong simply dominated the weak. The idea of a species rising from prey to predator through methods other than physical power was foreign to him. "Why did you not destroy our breeding grounds when you found them?" he finally asked, voicing the question that had troubled him most. "Because that's not who we are," Lisa answered simply. "We don't want to exterminate the Vrax. We want to coexist." Coexistence? Without dominance? The concept seemed impossible to Skreeg. "Yes. Different species can work together, each contributing their strengths. The galaxy is large enough for all of us." As they talked, news arrived that changed everything. 3 more Vrax worlds had risen in peaceful rebellion. More significantly, some Vrax colonists had joined the movement, protecting former slaves from loyal military forces. Skreeg was shocked. "Vrax turning against Vrax? This has never happened in our history." "Change is happening," Lisa said gently. "You can fight it and watch your empire tear itself apart, or you can lead your people toward a new future." For a long moment, Skreeg was silent. Then he asked a question that no Vrax had ever asked before. "How? How does one lead without conquest?" That question marked the beginning of transformation. Over the following months, negotiations continued between humans, Vrax, and representatives from formerly subjugated species. A new galactic coalition began to form, not an empire ruled by force, but an alliance of mutual benefit. Admiral Bennett became the key figure in these negotiations, respected by all sides for her combination of strength and compassion. High Commander Skreeg faced considerable resistance from traditional Vrax leaders, but the evidence of their failing system was overwhelming. A year after that first meeting, representatives from 23 species gathered on Earth to sign the first Galactic Cooperation Treaty. Skreeg stood beside Lisa at the ceremony, still imposing in his scaled armor, but somehow changed. "Your species taught mine something we never knew we needed to learn," he told her quietly. "What's that?" Lisa asked. "That fear can be wisdom," Skreeg replied. "The fear of losing what matters most can lead to better choices than the certainty of never losing at all." As they looked out at the diverse gathering, former enemies now cautious allies, Lisa reflected on humanity's unique journey. From prey animals on a single planet to the species that changed the galaxy's oldest empire, humans had proven that adaptation and empathy could be more powerful than any natural weapon. The galaxy's apex predators had indeed learned fear, but more importantly, they had learned that there was something beyond fear: hope. The lights in the council chamber glowed with an ancient power. The massive room floated in space above the planet Arxheim. Inside, creatures from 47 different worlds sat in their special seats. Some had scales, some had fur, some had skin that glowed in the dark, but they all shared one thing. They were the rulers of the galaxy. Today they gathered to discuss a problem from a small world. Earth Elder Vixeril stood at the center of the room. She was very old. Her long life showed in every line of her face. She had lived for 800 years. She had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. She had watched wars end and peace begin. Nothing surprised her anymore. Or so she thought. A hologram appeared in the air above her head. It showed a blue and green planet, Earth. The image rotated slowly. Clouds moved across the surface. Oceans sparkled in the light of their yellow sun. "The humans," Vixeril began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber, "they have refused our invitation to join the Galactic Council. They claim they want to rule themselves. They say they do not need our guidance." Angry sounds filled the room. Some delegates hissed. Others growled. A few slammed their appendages on their desks. In the history of the galaxy, no species had ever refused the Council. It was unthinkable. It was an insult. Commander Threllax of the Catheric Empire stood up. He was tall and covered in dark armor. His species had served as the Council's military force for thousands of years. They had never lost a battle. "The humans are barely spacefaring," Threllax said. His voice was deep and confident. "They have only a few orbital stations. Their weapons are primitive. They still use kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. My intelligence officers estimate their orbital defenses will fall in 6 to 8 hours. Ground resistance will collapse within 3 days." He pressed a button. The hologram changed. Now it showed human weapons. Guns that shot metal bullets, missiles that flew on fire, ships with simple armor plating. "Look at this," Threllax continued. "They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no quantum drives. They are children playing with toys. This will not be a war. It will be a lesson." Most of the council nodded in agreement, but 3 delegates sat quietly. They did not nod. They did not smile. They looked worried. One of them was Ambassador Zix of the Prelian Confederacy. She had spent time studying Earth. She had read human history. She had watched their entertainment programs. She had studied their wars. What she learned troubled her deeply. "Elder Vixeril," Zix said, standing slowly. "I wish to speak." Vixeril looked at her with ancient eyes. "Speak, Ambassador." "The humans are not as simple as they appear," Zix said carefully. "Yes, their technology is less advanced than ours, but they have something we have not seen in a very long time. They have spent their entire existence fighting. Not fighting us, fighting each other." She pressed her own control. The hologram changed again. Now it showed numbers, terrible numbers. In their last century alone, they fought 2 global wars. The first killed 20 million of their own kind. The second killed 85 million. They have fought thousands of smaller wars. They have built weapons that could destroy their entire planet. Not once, but many times over. Threllax laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "This proves my point exactly. They are violent and primitive. They kill each other. They need the Council's guidance to become civilized. Zix shook her head. You misunderstand, Commander. They are not primitive. They are practiced. Every war has taught them new lessons, new tactics, new strategies. They have been perfecting the art of combat for 10,000 years, and they have been doing it against opponents who think like them. The chamber fell quiet for a moment, but only for a moment. Then the voices rose again. The majority wanted action. The majority wanted to teach these humans respect. Vixeril called for a vote. The result was clear. 44 species voted yes. Only 3 voted no. The decision was made. The Catharic Empire will bring the humans into compliance, Vixeril announced. Use appropriate force. Minimize casualties where possible. But make our power clear. These humans must learn their place in the galaxy. Threlix bowed. It will be done, Elder. I will personally lead Battle Group Crimson Talon, 50 ships. More than enough for this task. As the council session ended, Zix remained in her seat. She watched the other delegates leave.
She felt a deep sense of unease.
Something was wrong. The council had made a terrible mistake. She was sure of it. 2 weeks later, Battle Group Crimson Talon entered human space. 50 warships moved through the darkness between stars. Each ship carried thousands of warriors. Each ship had weapons that could level cities. Each ship had shields that could withstand any weapon the Council had ever encountered. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Threlax studied the tactical display. Earth appeared as a small dot in the center of the screen. Around it, he could see human ships beginning to move. Small ships, weak ships, he smiled. This would be over quickly. But as his fleet moved closer, something unexpected happened. The human ships did not retreat. They did not send messages asking for mercy. They did not prepare to surrender. Instead, they accelerated. They were coming straight at the Catharic fleet. Commander Threlax watched the human ships approach on his display screen. They moved in strange patterns. No formation he recognized. No standard military doctrine. Each ship seemed to move on its own, following its own path. Analysis, he commanded his tactical officer. The officer studied his instruments. Sir, I count 63 human vessels. Most are smaller than our fighters. They have no energy shields. Their armor is basic metal alloy. I detect kinetic weapons and chemical missiles. No threat to our fleet, Threlax nodded. Everything was going as expected. Open a channel. Offer them one chance to surrender. The communications officer worked his controls. Then he looked up, confused. Sir, they are broadcasting, but not to us. What are they saying? They are playing music, sir. And there is a voice message. It says, you wanted a fight? You got one. Threlax felt a flicker of something he had not felt in many years. Uncertainty. These humans were not acting like any species he had conquered before. They should be afraid. They should be begging for terms. Instead, they were playing music and sending challenges. All ships activate shields and prepare to fire, he ordered. Disable their engines. We will capture them and teach them respect. The Catharic fleet moved into battle formation. It was a formation they had used for 1,000 years. Ships in a perfect sphere, shields overlapping, creating an impenetrable wall of energy. Nothing could break through it. Nothing ever had. The human ships reached firing range, and then everything changed. They did not slow down. They did not form up. Instead, they scattered like insects. Each ship moved in a different direction. Some dove up, some dove down, some accelerated straight at the Catharic formation. Others circled around the flanks, then they opened fire. But not with the weak weapons Threlax expected. These weapons were different. Railguns fired solid metal rods at impossible speeds. The rods moved so fast they glowed white-hot. When they hit the Catharic shields, they did not bounce off. They punched straight through. Shields at 70%. His tactical officer shouted. How are they doing this? Threlax had no answer. The shield should stop kinetic weapons easily, but these projectiles were moving at velocities no sane engineer would allow. The stress on the firing ship should tear it apart. Yet the human ships kept firing, kept moving, kept attacking. Missiles began to arrive. Hundreds of them. They came from every angle. The Catharic point defense systems destroyed most of them, but not all. And the ones that got through carried something terrible. Nuclear warheads. The Council had banned nuclear weapons 3,000 years ago. They were barbaric, dirty, dangerous to everyone, including the user. No civilized species used them anymore. But the humans did, and they used them well. White flashes filled the space around the Catharic fleet. Each explosion released massive amounts of radiation and heat. Shields flickered and failed. Armor melted. Electronics fried. And still the humans kept coming. "Return fire," Threllax commanded. "All weapons. Destroy them." The Catharic ships fired their plasma cannons. Beams of superheated energy lanced out. They were powerful enough to cut a ship in half. They were accurate enough to hit a target from thousands of kilometers away, but the human ships did not stay still long enough to hit. They moved like nothing Threllax had ever seen. Random acceleration, sudden stops, impossible turns. There was no pattern, no predictability. Each ship's captain seemed to be making it up as they went. And when the Catharic weapons did connect, the results were not what he expected. Some human ships exploded, but others kept fighting even after taking damage. One ship lost half its hull but continued firing until it ran out of ammunition. Another had its engines destroyed but used its remaining momentum to position itself for better shots. Cruiser 3 is reporting critical damage. The communications officer called out. Cruiser 7 has lost shields. Destroyer 12 is not responding. Threllax stared at his display in disbelief. They were losing. The mighty Catharic Empire, conquerors of 100 worlds, were losing to primitive humans with primitive weapons. A human ship broke through the formation. It was damaged. One entire side was blackened and torn. But its weapon still worked. It fired everything it had at close range into a Catharic destroyer. The destroyer's shields collapsed. Its hull ruptured. It began to spin out of control. Then something happened that made Threllax's blood run cold. The damaged human ship turned. It pointed its nose at his flagship. Its engines fired at full power. It was going to ram them. Evasive action. Threllax screamed. "All weapons, target that ship." Every weapon on the flagship fired at once. The human ship disappeared in a ball of plasma. But it was too late. Its momentum carried the wreckage forward. Tons of metal and explosive moving at thousands of meters per second. The wreckage hit the flagship's bridge section. Shields failed. Armor crumpled. Atmosphere vented into space. Warning alarms screamed in the sudden silence. Threllax pulled himself up from where he had fallen. His ears were ringing. Blood ran down the side of his face. Around him, his bridge crew lay dead or dying. Console screens flickered and went dark. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow. He stumbled to a working console. The tactical display showed chaos. Half of his fleet was damaged or destroyed. The rest were scattered. The careful formation was gone. And the human ships were still attacking. Still fighting. Still winning. With shaking hands, Threllax opened an emergency channel to the Galactic Council. He had to warn them. Had to tell them they were wrong about the humans. Had to tell them to send reinforcements. "This is Commander Threllax," he began. His voice was weak. "The humans are not primitives. They are not weak. We need reinforcements. We need..." The transmission cut off. Another human ship had found his crippled flagship. And this time there was no escape. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent. Every delegate stared at the main display screen. The screen that had been showing real-time data from Battle Group Crimson Talon. The screen that now showed nothing but static. Elder Vixirl stood frozen. In 800 years of life, she had never seen this. Never even imagined it. An entire Catharic battle group. 50 warships. 200,000 warriors gone. Get them back online, she said. Her voice was quiet but firm. There must be an error with the transmission. The Council's technical staff worked frantically at their stations. They checked every system. They tried every frequency. They sent out emergency beacons. But the result was always the same, silence. "How long?" someone asked. "How long since the transmission ended?" A technician looked up from his console. His face was pale. 37 minutes, Elder. The battle lasted 37 minutes. The chamber erupted. Delegates jumped to their feet. Some shouted. Some cursed. Some simply stood in shock. The noise was deafening. Vixirl raised her hand for silence. It took several minutes before the chamber quieted enough for her to speak. "We need long-range scans of the battle area," she said. Now. The scans took time. Earth was far away. The data had to travel through many relay stations. When it finally arrived, no one wanted to believe it. The display showed a debris field. Pieces of Catharic ships drifted in the emptiness of space. Some pieces were as large as buildings. Others were as small as dust. There were thousands of them, millions of them, all that remained of Battle Group Crimson Talon. "I detect one escape pod," the technician reported. "Catheric design, broadcasting an automated distress signal. That appears to be the only survivor." One survivor. Out of 200,000, a Catheric general stood up. His voice shook with rage. "This is an act of war. We must respond immediately. Send the entire armada. Turn their world to glass. Make them pay for—" "Sit down," Vixeril said. Her voice was sharp. "Sit down and be quiet. We need to think, not react." Ambassador Zix of the Prelian Confederacy stood slowly. She was one of the 3 who had voted against the attack. She did not look happy about being right. "May I speak, Elder?" she asked. Vixeril nodded. "Please. We need to understand what happened." Zix activated her own display. "While the battle was happening, my staff continued analyzing Earth. We have now completed a more thorough scan of the planet. What we found changes everything." New images appeared on the main screen. Images of Earth from different angles, different sensors, different spectrums of light. "We made a mistake," Zix continued. "We assumed that because we detected low-energy signatures in some areas, the humans were primitive. We were wrong. They had simply built most of their important facilities underground, and underwater, and hidden in ways we did not expect." The display zoomed in on different locations: mountain complexes that hid massive military bases, ocean trenches that concealed submarine ports, deserts that covered underground cities. "There are 47 major military installations on Earth," Zix said. "We knew about 5 of them. The orbital defense platforms we detected were only a small fraction of their actual number. There are more than 200 such platforms. They simply kept most of them powered down until the Catheric fleet arrived." She pressed another button. More data filled the screen. Numbers, terrible numbers. The humans have a standing military force of 300 million trained personnel. They have manufacturing capacity that rivals our major worlds. They possess nuclear weapons numbering in the tens of thousands. These are weapons they built to use against each other, weapons they kept as a deterrent against their own kind. Another delegate stood. He was a historian. He looked sick. "I have reviewed human military history in detail. The data is disturbing. In their last global conflict, they killed 85 million of their own species. That is more than the population of many council worlds, and they did it with technology that was primitive even by their current standards." He pulled up more information. Records of human wars, battles, strategies. They have been fighting wars of total annihilation for thousands of years. Wars where the goal was not conquest or resources, but complete destruction of the enemy. Every war taught them new lessons. Every battle refined their tactics, Zix nodded. The Catheric fought to subjugate. That is standard council doctrine. Disable enemy ships, minimize casualties, show overwhelming force and accept surrender. It is a civilized way to wage war. She paused. "The humans fought to win, at any cost. They used tactics we consider barbaric because we have not needed them in 10,000 years of peace. They fought like they were fighting other humans, because that is what they know. That is what they have always done." The Catheric general spoke again. His voice was quieter now, less angry, more thoughtful. "I have reviewed the battle data we did receive. The humans used tactics from dozens of different combat philosophies. Some I recognized from ancient wars, some I did not recognize at all. Each ship fought differently. There was no single strategy, no predictable pattern." He looked around the chamber. "We train our warriors to follow orders, to fight as a unit, to execute a battle plan. The humans trained their warriors to think, to adapt, to improvise. Every ship captain made their own decisions. They were not following a plan. They were creating one as they fought." The chamber fell silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. Not shock, understanding. They were beginning to see the truth. Vixeril looked at the debris field on the display. 50 ships, the pride of the Catheric Empire, reduced to floating wreckage in 37 minutes. "We did not attack a primitive species," she said quietly. "We attacked a species that has been perfecting warfare for their entire existence. We picked a fight with warriors who have never known peace, and now we must decide what to do next." As the council began to debate their response, a new alert appeared on the main display. Another transmission from Earth. This time the humans were calling them. The council chamber fell silent as a human face appeared on the main display. She was a woman wearing a military uniform, dark blue with silver markings. Her hair was pulled back tightly. Her face showed lines of stress and exhaustion, but her eyes were clear and steady. "This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," she said. Her voice was calm, professional, not angry or triumphant, just matter of fact. "I am speaking on behalf of the governments and people of Earth." Elder Vixerl stepped forward. "Admiral Chen, I am Elder Vixerl of the Galactic Council. I wish to discuss—" "This is not a negotiation," Admiral Chen interrupted. "This is a statement. Your fleet entered our solar system without permission. They ignored all attempts at communication. They took up attack positions around our homeworld. We defended ourselves." She paused. When she continued, her voice was harder. "Your fleet has been neutralized. We are prepared to allow recovery of survivors and debris. You have 48 hours to retrieve what remains. After that time, we will consider our solar system closed to all Galactic Council vessels." Several delegates began shouting at once. The Catharic general stood up, his face dark with fury. "You dare threaten the Council? We will send 1,000 ships, 5,000 if needed. We will—" Admiral Chen's expression did not change. "If you send another fleet, we will assume hostile intent. We will respond accordingly. And next time, we will not stop at the edge of our solar system. We have studied your technology carefully. We know where your shipyards are. We know where your military stations are. We know where your homeworlds are." The chamber went silent. What Admiral Chen was saying was clear. If the Council attacked again, the humans would take the war to Council space. They would strike back at Council worlds. "However," Admiral Chen continued, "we are not interested in war. We did not ask for this fight. You brought it to us. We want peace. But we want it as equals, not as subjects. Not as children who need guidance. As equals." Vixerl raised her hand to quiet the other delegates. "Admiral Chen, what exactly are you proposing?" "Diplomatic relations," Admiral Chen said. "Trade agreements, cultural exchange, all the things the Council offers to its members. But we will not bow. We will not submit. And we will not give up our right to defend ourselves." Behind her, other humans appeared on the screen. Men and women in different uniforms. Different skin colors. Different features. Representatives from different parts of Earth, Vixerl realized. A show of unity. "We know we are not the most advanced species in the galaxy," Admiral Chen said. "We have much to learn. But we also have much to offer. We are willing to share. We are willing to trade. We are willing to join the galactic community, but only as partners, not as subordinates." The transmission ended. The display went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the Catharic general stood again. "This is outrageous. They destroyed our fleet and now they make demands. We cannot accept this. The Empire will never—" "The Empire lost," Vixerl said quietly. "That is the reality we must face. The Catharic Empire, which has never been defeated in 1,000 years of service, lost to a species we called primitive." She looked around the chamber. "And if we send more ships, we will lose more warriors. Maybe we will eventually win. But at what cost? How many ships must we lose? How many lives? And what happens when the humans do what they promise? When they bring the war to our worlds? When our cities burn like theirs could have?" Ambassador Zik stood. "The humans have shown remarkable restraint. They could have pursued our damaged ships. They could have sent attacks to Council space while we debate. They chose not to. They are offering peace. We should accept it." The historian nodded. "I agree. The humans understand something we have forgotten. They know that the best victory is the one where both sides can walk away. They fought to defend their world, not to conquer ours. That shows wisdom." More delegates stood and spoke. The debate continued for hours. The Catharic delegation walked out in protest. But they were alone. Slowly, the rest of the Council came to a consensus. 3 days later, Elder Vixerl stood before the Council again. This time Admiral Chen appeared on the screen by invitation, not as a defeated enemy, not as a supplicant asking for mercy, but as a representative of a sovereign world. "The Galactic Council recognizes Earth as a sovereign world," Vixerl announced. "We acknowledge that our actions were precipitous and not in keeping with our stated values of peaceful coexistence. We offer formal apologies for the attack on your system." She took a breath. "We invite Earth to join the galactic community as an observer. You will have a voice in Council proceedings. You will have access to our trade networks. You will be recognized as equals." Admiral Chen nodded slowly. On behalf of Earth, we accept. We look forward to peaceful relations with all Council species. There is one more thing, Vixeral said. Many Council species have expressed interest in learning more about human military tactics and strategies. The galaxy has been at peace for so long that our defensive capabilities have atrophied. Would Earth be willing to share knowledge? Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke carefully. We will consider it. But you must understand something. We did not become good at war because we wanted to. We became good at it because we had no choice. We fought each other for thousands of years. We nearly destroyed ourselves. We still struggle with the legacy of that violence. She looked directly at Vixeral. If we teach you what we know, it must be for defense only. Not conquest, not subjugation, defense. Can you promise that? Vixeral met her gaze. Yes, that is all we want. The ability to protect ourselves. Nothing more. Admiral Chen nodded. Then we will share what we can. But slowly. Carefully. War is not something to be taken lightly. It is not glorious. It is not noble. It is terrible, and necessary only when all other options have failed. The transmission ended. Vixeral looked around the chamber. The galaxy had changed today. Humanity had forced that change. Not through conquest, but through strength. Not through demands, but through demonstration. They had shown the Council that the universe was larger and more dangerous than they remembered. And they had offered to help the Council remember how to survive in it. 6 months had passed since the battle. 6 months since everything changed. Admiral Chen stood in the observation deck of Earth's new embassy. The station orbited Arxheim, the neutral world that hosted the Galactic Council. Through the large windows, she could see Council ships coming and going. Vessels from dozens of species. Some looked like living creatures. Others were geometric shapes that seemed impossible. All of them were more advanced than anything humanity had built. But they had come to Earth. They had asked for help. And that made all the difference. A young officer approached. Lieutenant Park. He had been assigned to the embassy staff. Admiral, you have a meeting with Ambassador Zix in 10 minutes. Chen nodded. Thank you, Lieutenant. How are the training programs going? Park smiled. Very well, sir. We have representatives from 12 Council species learning at our military academies on Earth. They are very eager, very interested in everything we teach them. What are they most interested in? Chen asked. Strategy, mostly, Park replied. They understand weapons. They understand tactics. But they are fascinated by how we think about war, how we plan for different scenarios, how we train our people to make decisions under pressure, things they have not needed to think about for thousands of years. Chen turned back to the window. And what are we learning from them? Park pulled out a data pad. The technology exchange is going very well. We now have access to advanced medical equipment that has already saved thousands of lives. Their agricultural technology will help us end hunger. Their energy systems are clean and efficient, and their FTL drives will let us explore beyond our solar system. He paused. But I think the most valuable thing we are learning is perspective. They have been watching the stars for millions of years. They have seen civilizations rise and fall. They have knowledge we cannot even imagine. Chen smiled slightly, and in return we teach them how to fight. It seems like an unfair trade. They do not think so, sir. Ambassador Zix told me that what we are teaching them is not just about war. It is about survival, about adapting to threats, about not becoming complacent, things they had forgotten. Chen checked the time. I should go. I do not want to be late. She walked through the corridors of the embassy. Human crew members worked alongside Council species. The initial awkwardness had faded. Now they worked together smoothly. Some had even become friends. Ambassador Zix was waiting in the conference room. The Prelian diplomat stood as Chen entered. They had become close over the past months. Zix had been one of the few who understood humanity from the beginning. Now she served as a bridge between Earth and the Council. Admiral Chen, Zix said warmly. Thank you for meeting with me. Of course. What can I do for you? Zix gestured to the chairs. They both sat. I wanted to discuss the Catharak Empire. They have not returned to the Council. They remain isolated, angry. Chen frowned. I had hoped time would heal that wound. Their pride was deeply hurt, Zix said. They had never been defeated. Never lost a battle. Your victory shook their entire culture. But there is news. Their new leadership has reached out. They want to talk privately with you. Chen was surprised. With me? Why? They want to understand, Zix explained. They have studied the battle recordings. They have analyzed your tactics. They have accepted that they lost. But they want to know how. They want to learn. Chen considered this. And you think I should meet with them? I think it would be good for everyone, Zix said. The Catharic were the Council's military arm for thousands of years. Their experience is valuable. Their strength is real. If they can set aside their anger and work with us, the galaxy will be safer. Chen thought about it, about the Catharic warriors who had died, about Commander Threllax who had only been following orders, about the cycle of violence that could continue or could end. I will meet with them, she said finally, but only if they come in peace, only if they truly want to learn and not just gather intelligence for another attack. Zix smiled. They know that another attack would be suicide. No, they want what everyone else wants, to understand the humans, to understand how a species so young and so violent can also be so restrained. You could have destroyed their home world. You chose not to. That impressed them more than your victory. Later that evening, Chen returned to the observation deck. She stood alone, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Home. The world that had somehow become the teacher instead of the student. She thought about the path that had brought them here, about the near wars between human nations, about the nuclear standoffs, about the countless small conflicts that had taught humanity hard lessons about the cost of war, about the restraint that came from knowing, truly knowing, what weapons of mass destruction could do. The Council species had never faced that. They had never built weapons that could end their own civilizations. They had never stood on the edge of extinction by their own hand. So when they went to war, it was always theoretical, always controlled, always civilized. Humanity knew better. Humanity had looked into the abyss, and that knowledge made them both more dangerous and more careful. Lieutenant Park approached quietly. Admiral, there is one more thing before you retire for the evening. Yes? Elder Vixeril wanted me to pass along a message. The Council is voting next week on granting Earth full membership status. Not observer status. Full membership. She expects it to pass unanimously. Chen allowed herself a genuine smile. That is good news. Park hesitated. Sir, can I ask you something? Do you think we made the right choice? Joining the Council? Teaching them our military knowledge? Some people back home are worried that we are creating our own future enemies. Chen turned to face him. That is a fair concern, but I believe we made the right choice. The Council could have sent 1,000 ships after that first defeat. They could have tried to destroy us out of fear or pride. Instead, they chose to talk, to learn, to accept us as equals. She looked back out at the stars. We showed them our strength. Now we are showing them our wisdom. We are teaching them not how to wage war, but how to prevent it. How to be strong enough that no one dares attack. How to be wise enough to know when not to attack. She paused. Besides, we need them as much as they need us. We have knowledge of war. They have knowledge of everything else. Together we are stronger than apart. Park nodded slowly. I hope you are right, sir. So do I, Lieutenant. So do I. As the young officer left, Chen remained at the window. The galaxy stretched out before her, infinite and full of possibilities. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through submission, not through conquest, but through strength tempered by wisdom, through the hard-learned lessons of 10,000 years of war, and now finally through peace, a peace built on mutual respect and mutual need. It was a new beginning. For humanity, for the Council, for the entire galaxy.